Welcome to Four Sons Woodworking, and thanks for taking the time to stop in and check out our channel. My name is Justin, and today we're going to be taking a look at the vacuum boom arm behind me here. Let's go ahead and dive into it and check out the specs. So let's first take a look at the boom's ability to extend. The inner assembly extends out, and this increases the reach from 4 to 8 feet. This gives you the ability to drop your vacuum hose down almost anywhere in the shop. This also has an internal stop built in so that you're not able to pull this completely out onto your head, which I think we all could agree would be a bad day in the shop. With this extended or compressed back in, I should say, let's jump to the extension cord reel. This is a retractable reel. So you can pull this out and it has stops so it'll stay locked in the position where you want it. One of the great features of this, well, one of two of the great features of this, is that if you don't have outlets on the walls exactly where you need them, rather than having a cord on the ground that you're tripping over or getting wrapped up in, you can extend this over from above to your tools, say a drill press, planer, that type of thing. You'll see we've added this pulley to the end, and that gives us the ability to use the cord reel the way we are. Glad to see you all stuck around for the build. So now we're over at the table saw, and we're going to start cutting down our pieces for the main body and the internal slide of the overhead boom. I've broken down a 4x8 sheet of plywood already and have the pieces ready to go. I am going to overcut all of the pieces because I have some factory edges that I want to clean up. The plywood we're using for this build today is radiata pine. This is also known as Monterey pine. This species of tree is native to California. Another interesting fact about this plywood is it's one of the largest commercially grown species of tree that's available. This is a good substitute for birch or Baltic birch plywood when you have a shop style project. All right, so now we are over at the assembly table, and we have the two sides for the main body of the boom arm. These sides are 6 inches wide by 48 inches long. So if you remember from the video earlier, we had some elongated slots in the main body where you could see through. And the purpose of those is twofold. One, I think it looks pretty cool. And two, it reduces the weight of this whole assembly. And since it extends out so far, we definitely want to cut as much weight off as we can. All right, so we were over at the drill press. I did do one other thing off camera that I didn't mention when we were doing the layout. I went ahead and added a center line to this sideboard so that I could just keep track and make sure that we're staying on track as we drill each hole. I have my fence set, so we should be in really good shape, but that's just kind of a last check there and resort as we set up to drill each hole. So I've got it clamped down and we're ready to drill the first hole. We have a 2 3/8 hole saw, and this will take a little bit longer than normal because we have this tired old Ryobi drill press, but it also goes to show you that you can get things done with what you have. So, but believe me, this will be next on my purchase list. So let's go ahead and drill a hole. All right, so we're back over at the assembly table now. All of our holes are drilled. I went ahead and cut some of the hinge brackets. These are the ones that will mount on the wall to the plate that goes to the wall. I went and cut this curve. I used a jigsaw and then a belt sander to smooth the curve out. So there's 4 of these total. What we'll do is we'll use the cut one as a template, and we'll take them over to the router table and cut them all that way. There will also be 2 more pieces that need to be rounded over, which are the top and the bottom for the main boom arm. So let me show you what I'm working on here now. So here I have the sides of the main body with the 12 holes we've drilled. So now we just need to connect those holes, and I use a jigsaw to do that. One thing that I do like to do is to draw the lines in between, just to make sure we get as straight and accurate of a line as possible. There's nothing worse than having to try and sand these back into the correct form when they've been cut wrong. So it's worth the extra time to go ahead and connect these circle cutouts with a line. So that's what we'll do. And then we'll go ahead and start cutting them out with the jigsaw. All right, so now we have both of those cut. The next step for these will be a quick sanding to clean up some of the inside of these edges, and then we'll take it over to the router table. We'll do a round over on the outside edges of the outer frame. That'll give it a little bit cleaner look. We'll also do a round over inside the slots too. We will use these pieces still, and I'll show you where that'll come in. I'm a big fan of using every bit of the wood as you can. So we've got part of the design. These will actually be the uprights that hold the inner assembly together. So don't throw those away. All right, so we're back at the table saw now. This will be our final trip to the table saw. We're going to go ahead and create what I would call a shooter board on the table saw, and we're going to use this to square up some of those pieces we cut earlier. So first thing I want to do is run this along the fence and get this squared up with the table saw. Just going to go ahead and line these up with the edge of my board that I just cut to give me a straight edge on the side. Now that we have the straight edge, we can go ahead and adjust our fence over. We're going to keep these as wide as we can and just take enough off to square it up with the other edge. All right, so now we're over at the drill press and we're going to drill the holes in our hinge pieces. We're going to use a 1-inch dowel and we'll drill an 1.125 hole with a spade bit. We have to drill the hole in 4 of these pieces. These are actually the ones that go to the wall mount. And we'll also have to drill a hole in each of the top and bottom plate for the main body of the arm. I've already set up a stop and the fence so we can repeat the holes, and we should be pretty darn close once we're done. So let's get to drilling some holes. All right, there's our first one. Let's check our dowel. It's a good fit. Again, this is a 1-inch dowel and that's an 1.125 hole, so that should give us just the right amount of play. Still pretty tight, but has some movement, so looks good. Let's go ahead and drill the rest. All right, well, we've made it. It looks like everything's cut out. Let's do a quick review before we assemble anything. These will be our side pieces with the slots for the main body. This will be the piece that mounts with the hinges to the wall. You should have 2 of these. Then we have the top and bottoms for the main body. These we drilled the 1.125 hole in to accept the hinge. This is the bottom of the main body. Notice I did drill an extra hole that I didn't show on camera. This is a 3-inch hole that I did with a hole saw, and this will let the hose pass through from the wall into the vacuum arm itself. I did use a 1/4-inch roundover on this hole because I wanted a really, really smooth transition so the ribs in the hose don't catch. So this is the bottom. And those 4 pieces will take care of the main body assembly that mounts to the wall. We have 2 of these, and these are the inner slide assembly that slides in and out. We did a roundover on these edges, and I did sand these all with 220 just to help make sure that it slides in and out of the assembly easy. There are no major sides for the inner assembly. It's actually going to be wood blocks. These blocks are 3 inches high and about 2 inches wide, and they'll look something like that. And when we put those in, we'll space them so that they don't end up in the center of one of our slots that we cut, just for aesthetic purposes. So when the arm is completely compressed in all the way, those blocks will line up with these areas here so that you don't see it. And the last few parts, we have the hinges that mount to the wall. These are the ones we drilled the 1.125 hole through, and these will connect to the top of the main body with the dowel rod. There is one piece too that we don't have here, and that will actually be the plate that goes to the wall that these mount to, and that'll just be a piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and we'll have to determine the dimensions based on the wall of where it fits. So that's all of our pieces. Let's go ahead and start assembling. All right, and with that, we have the main body assembly. You'll notice the hinges or the hinge side. We have the hole for the hose to drop through. And then this end will receive the sliding internal assembly. All right, so as I was saying earlier, I want to make sure that when the inside assembly or inner assembly is slid all the way in to the outer arm, that we don't see the wood blocks. It'll give it a much cleaner look. So, I'll give you an example. We'll space them just like this. So right now I want to go ahead and mark that so I know where to put the blocks when I assemble the inner assembly. So I'll just use the blocks as my guide to make my marks. And really, the only two that are affected are these two here. And let's go ahead and get this nailed together. Make sure we don't have any nails sticking up. We do have one right there. Everything here feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and give her a shot. See if we pull this off. Yep, very nice. There it is. You'll notice it slides very well. The other thing you can do is put a little bit of paste wax on there, and that'll help with the sliding, but you can see it's pretty simple. I wanted to give you a quick look at how we put the stop into this for the internal sliding part of the arm. So we took a lag bolt and ground down the bottom 1 inch of it. It was actually a longer lag bolt. We had to cut it down to size. And then we ground down about 1 inch of it. And what we'll do is drill a 1/4 inch hole in the end of the arm. We'll slide the inner assembly out to its furthest point, and we'll use that same hole to drill another hole. And what that'll do is that'll give us the markings on the inner assembly of where to route the groove for it to ride in. Slide this out. So we have a hole here, and then down on this end we have a hole. And what I'll do is I'll set up the router table with a 1/4 inch bit and the fence, and we'll just create a groove all the way down to this hole down here. So that'll create a groove for this to ride in. And once it gets pulled out to this point, it'll stop. So we made the pass on the router. Let's see what we got. You'll see we have a slot that runs all the way down to the point that we want this to stop. So let's go ahead and assemble this, and I can show you how it works. So back at the assembly table, we've got our slot routed. We'll go ahead and slide this into the outer assembly. Just like that. Then we can go ahead and install this bolt. Go ahead and drive this bolt in. Doesn't need to be super tight. But right now that's in that groove. So that's as far as it'll go in. And there you go. You can hear it hit the stop. So that'll be to its full extended width, or length actually, sorry. So there you have it. There's the internal stop. So the final piece of this puzzle, I've cut the dowel. We'll thread these dowel through the blocks that we cut for the hinge. Now I've cut this dowel a little bit long. I'm giving this boom arm to my younger brother for his garage, and I'm not sure how he wants to set it up yet, so I'm going to leave this long and he can cut it to length. So you see how easy these pivot on here. And with giving this to him, I also don't know how big of a mounting plate he wants, but this is the way it would work. You would center these on this mounting plate, and I screwed them in from the back, and you're doubled up here, so you can get quite a few screws in there and glue. Something else I did on my version of the boom arm, and I can show you here in a second, is I put some wooden gussets in here, just some triangle gussets on each of these sides, just to kind of reinforce it. So that's basically what you're looking at when it's all together. So here's the arm that I have mounted to the wall, which matches the one we just built. We'll zoom in here on the hinge so you can see what that looks like mounted up. So you'll notice we have the exact same hinge set up, but the wooden plate is mounted to the wall, and I used some 3.5-inch construction screws to mount that to the wall. One of the improvements on the new boom that we just built is instead of having that open area for the hose to come out, we drilled a 3-inch hole to make it a little bit cleaner. Here's a quick shot of the pulley that we used that hangs off the bottom so that your cord can run in that. And then I also drilled a hole and put a piece of rope in there with a piece of wooden block on the end of it just to grab onto as a handle. And then you'll also see I found a hook that I had here in the garage, and I bent it a little bit to use to hold the vacuum hose. And here's the cord reel. And you'll notice that is mounted directly to the wall next to the boom arm. So it travels on its own. And the cord being attached to the boom arm at the end through the pulley actually pulls the cord reel along with it. It moves with it pretty nicely. So there it is. For any of you that actually stuck around for the whole video, I really appreciate it. As always, please like and subscribe. That's the motivation for me to keep doing this. Have a great day.